This is Sky News, the headlines. Fuel in the tank. The Prime Minister and petrol suppliers say the worst of the supply crisis may be over.
I would just stress that on the forecourts, the situation is stabilising and people should be confident and just go about their business in their normal way.
Support the truck driver. Get behind the truck driver. We need them and they need us, but they need us more than we need them.
There's still a shortage of truckers, says the industry, and warns their treatment could drive off the help the country needs. Also, the Labour leader's recipe for a fix, from the fuel crisis to divisions in his party ahead of his conference speech.
They are the ones who we are supposed to look up to now, but they are objectively one of the biggest climate villains.
The world's most prominent climate activist excoriates Britain just a month before a landmark conference. We see the troops on the front line of Africa's war on terror fighting Islamist rebels who've killed thousands. And No Time to Die or Say Goodbye, Daniel Craig's final premiere as James Bond. Good morning. If you've queued for fuel, you might doubt it, but the Prime Minister and petrol and diesel suppliers say the fuel crisis may be on the turn. Boris Johnson says the situation is stabilising. Oil giant Esso says it's improving. There's still a shortage of HGV drivers, though. One we spoke to told us because drivers are shown no respect here, an influx from the EU is unlikely. We'll hear more from him and a solution to the problem from Labour's leader in a moment. But first, our home editor, Jason Farrell, reports.
Fighting over fuel. A man with a knife approaches a car in southeast London that he thinks is jumping the queue. The driver meets aggression with aggression. This, an extreme example of fuel pump tensions.
He's run out of fuel, yeah?
Recovery driver Nigel Bond has his own set of frustrated drivers who've come to the end of their tank.
The current run on fuel appears to have come from nowhere. An analysis of fuel stocks in recent weeks shows no obvious signs of the problems that were to come. But the immediate cause seems clear. More customers who are filling their tanks with more fuel. Our business correspondent Paul Kelso has been looking at the data.
This fuel crisis is a consequence of demand, not supply. There's plenty of diesel and petrol. It's just not always in the right place because there aren't enough drivers to deliver it. The problem is us buying more than the industry was prepared for. Now, this is what the national fuel stock usually looks like. It's the average percentage of storage being used at garages every week since the start of last year. The top line is diesel, the bottom one petrol, and the middle line is the average. You can see it fluctuates. It went up storage during lockdowns when we were at home, and then it went down when restrictions were eased and we hit the road. But the really interesting thing is the average is around 40% of storage at any time. So those massive tanks under garages are never full because 40% is more than enough to manage normal demand.
The crisis facing the government before this one was over another fuel, a supply squeeze on gas. The North Sea provides around 40% of the UK's stocks, but that's been called a textbook example of hypocrisy by the world's most famous climate activist. Greta Thunberg told us that the UK is a climate villain just a month before it hosts the COP26 climate conference. She was speaking in Milan to our climate change correspondent, Hannah Thomas-Peter.
Climate change activist Greta Thunberg arriving at Youth COP, a UN climate change meeting in Milan. A slightly reluctant celebrity, although comfortable enough to give a defiant and dismissive speech about the failure of politicians to tackle global warming.
Build back better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah.
Coming up next in the sport with James. Messi makes his mark at last for Paris Saint-Germain as they beat Manchester City in the Champions League.